This has been a problem for some time.
I can even take you back when there was laughing barrels, okay, where you couldn't laugh in public because of the color of your skin. You had to stick your head in the barrel to laugh. Los Angeles has had one of the most horrific histories of police brutality in all the major cities in the country, primarily during the 1960s with the Los Angeles Police Department.
65 riots because they beat this pregnant black woman.
You know, we heard about the Watts riot in the 60s, but I was a baby and a lot of, people younger than me don't remember that.
I was in second grade, so I was pretty young. I think my awareness of community violence and all of those things wasn't that present.
I had a sense of who Rodney King was just because of the news. I think we all watched that video.
I guess like everybody, we watched the Rodney King incident unfold on TV.
We weren't very politically inclined. We didn't really know that that had happened.
I used to kind of like follow the stuff on TV, not as much as I do now. Like
the politicians were out, one side or the other.
So it was pretty much from television, maybe the radio. Social media was not the big thing back then.
En todos los canales estuvo mostrando la golpiza que le dieron.
We got to see it for the first time raw.
Cuando una persona escucha que golpearon a alguien, no es como cuando lo visualizas. Cuando lo visualizas te llega al corazón, te impacta mucho. Entonces ahí es donde empiezan los sentimientos a correr y es donde se empieza a levantar la gente, a hablar más bien o a criticar.
Anytime you give something too much negative attention, it's going to have a negative reaction.
People were kind of on pins and needles.
I don't think I ever thought anything was going to happen. I thought for sure they were going to be guilty.
They found the officers innocent, and it was a shock, because we all saw that video.
Just to hear the outcome of the verdict, it was totally like a slap in the face to say like, hey, we can do what we want, and even though you record it, or if you even have proof, we still could do what we want to do and get away with it. I knew at that time something was going to get ugly.
It was a surprise to me.
Sí pensé que algo estaba por suceder. También llega un momento que la gente se cansa del abuso, ¿no?
I had an idea, depending on the outcome of the jury, that would have a lot to do with how people in Los Angeles would react. But I did not expect the explosion that occurred.
I don't really believe nobody knew the extent of what would happen.
Just one spark can trigger anything.
All it takes is one person to throw that first brick, then everyone else just outpour whatever emotional reaction they may have.
It builds and builds and builds. Bam, you have a riot.
26862.
Recuerdo que todo se escuchó por la televisión.
Being in another state, we're not even getting day-breaking news from Los Angeles. We get the aftermath, the little,
And when we got home, my mom was so relieved to see us come home.
There was a Florence and Normandy, I believe.
It started on Florence and Normandy, but it was so widespread.
It spread.
Most of the action that was taking place was in the black community, and they were destroying black property and homes and stuff like that, rather than going over Beverly Hills or somewhere. They would be shot dead in a hurry, if they went there.
Go to Beverly Hills. I bet they'd stop it.
Y no nomás eran afroamericanos, y también eran bastante latinos involucrados en los disturbios.
Personally, as a Hispanic, I was embarrassed because some of the Hispanics that were involved didn't have a clue of what was going on. They just saw it as an opportunity.
It just became, let's see what we can go rob and steal. And it was a herd mentality mindset.
People were getting pulled out of vehicles, and the fires and the looting. It was surreal. It didn't feel like LA.
I remember the gentleman from the truck, the 18-wheeler, how they beat him up. And
law enforcement didn't react as quickly as they should have. Right? When you have a relatively small event, then try to contain it.
There were so many looters out there that the police officers weren't really doing anything.
The city council of each city, they reacted immediately. They were great. They started thinking ahead. They gathered their police captains or their chiefs.
pero varios de los dueños de negocio se subían a las azoteas con shotguns, con rifles, para proteger su negocio. No tenías la protección del sheriff o de la policía porque no acudían. Les podrías llamar diciéndoles que te están saqueando la tienda y no se presentaban.
We knew my uncle was driving somewhere through South LA, and we didn't get a hold of him. And somehow we saw him on the news when he was driving down, and they were trying to push the trucks.
My wife was in England, and she flew in on the same day. So she actually flew in, and she saw all the fires around from England. Yeah.
The whole county of Los Angeles was a dangerous place to be at that time because everybody was agitating.
And kids, I said, don't go stealing. What if you get caught? Don't go out here taking things that don't belong to you. Yes, they shouldn't have beat Rodney King. Yes, we saw the video. Yes, they should have been prosecuted. But do you want to be prosecuted?
When you're young, you're curious. Man, if it was over here, what would that be like?
I mean, we thought, well, that's LA. You know, that's not Lynwood. Let's just stay away from LA.
And I remember when the rumors started, like, it's finna start coming this way. We was like, oh man.
And then it kind of mushroomed out of South Central Los Angeles, and it hit us here in Lynwood on a Wednesday.
I was in second grade.
I was in a situation. Actually, I was in prison.
I was in school.
I remember getting to class.
I was at school.
I worked in downtown LA.
I worked for the South Bay Galleria.
I was in junior high school.
I used to work at juvenile hall.
I was just returning home from leave, active duty in the United States Navy.
On Long Beach Boulevard, we had just built a Travelodge, 9 months into it.
Le voy a hablar de la parte del Atlantic, sobre el Atlantic, porque ahí es donde está mi negocio.
I was actually driving along MLK. Now, MLK, in one site there, Norton, we used to have an old Alpha Beta Market, J.J. Newberry Shopping Center, Clark's Drugs, Thai food restaurant, and a couple hair salons was there as well. And so I noticed that individuals began smashing up the windows of these businesses, okay, prior to the fire being set at Clark's Drugs. So I was literally right there on MLK in front of the scene when that vandalism took place.
My mom took me to school, and I remember Miss Lucas, that was my teacher in 5th grade at Roosevelt. I think it was the vice principal that came to tell her something, and I could see in her face that there was something was happening. I could feel her fear, and when she opened the door, you could smell that there was chaos around us, even though we were blinded by the schools and the classrooms. And so our teacher walked us over to our parents, and it was my mom and my dad. And my dad, wanted to drive by some of the local businesses to see what was happening. And the closest businesses there was Century Plaza, where Thurgood Marshall and Cesar Chavez is now. And I mean, that was a place that I grew up in. I used to go play maquinitas there. I used to go to Clark's and get ice cream. The pet shop that was there had this really cool pond in the middle. And as we drove by, it was a shock to see that what I saw on TV the previous day was right in front of me. One thing that I think really stuck with me was I was thinking about the animals. I hope somebody steals the animals so they won't die in the fire.
We're coming down Long Beach Boulevard, Rosecrans, and burning in flames. You have people running back and forth, screaming, "Fuck the police," stuff like that. And I mean, you see it on TV and everything, but you never imagine you're actually going to be part of that. The windshield was down, so I suddenly started putting it up, and my brother's like, "No, don't do that. If they smash the window, all the glass is going to go on your face, and then you're going to be hurt." And I remember I had like a flashlight or something. Yes, in case someone tries to do something to you while I'm driving, you get this and you protect yourself with that. And then MLK, which you had all these other, I never imagined this area was going to be on fire too. It gets emotional too at the same time, because I used to walk from school. my favorite store for the ice cream stuff was Clark's. So, you know, you have all these places that are burning and, you know, people are looting as well. And finally, we get home, but you could still see the flames really, really high from where I live.
I remember being at home and watching the news and opening my window, and I can just see red because they burned down that grocery store. And that just was really, really present in my mind, seeing like something in my community not that far burning down.
And when the riots came on, I used to go to school in the day and work a jailhouse at night. And of course, they were really angry, you know. And I could go into the cell to help do work with the kids, do whatever they needed to have done, but they wouldn't let anybody else in. Like a Caucasian, they say, "Bring him in, I'll give you his eyeballs back." Oh God, what a mess. It was quite a thing.
I was supposed to have been released maybe the week after the riots actually happened. I get a letter saying that, you know, nobody's being released to Los Angeles, California. If you lived in any other city, you can go home. But if you live in anywhere in Los Angeles County, you cannot be released until this state of emergency is lifted. I was kept like another extra month. Even getting out, you could still, even though a lot of the burnings, a lot of stuff were mostly, you know, in South Central, you can still smell it. You can still feel it. You can still feel that it was a weird feeling here, just in LA County, period.
I was more concerned about my building because if it was looted, there was no insurance to cover it. But if it was set on fire, there was insurance to cover it. I had millions of dollars invested, and I would be stuck with all that, you know, that was my debt. I actually put sprinklers on around my building. I just left them on. But no one never graffitied my building. The community really respected the Travelodge. And then Southgate actually had Southgate police cars stopping anyone from coming into Southgate. So Southgate didn't get touched.
I could see some of my students on TV. I said, "I saw you. Miss George, you gonna turn us in?" "Yes, I'm gonna turn you in." "No."
I lived right on the other side of the tracks, so on Alameda and Martin Luther King. So my carpooler and I were trying to figure out, she lived in Southgate and I lived in Lynwood. So we were trying to figure out how we were gonna come home. And we were scared, and we were even talking about, well, if somebody jumps in front of us, we're gonna run them over and keep going. You know, it's us or them. I have 3 kids, 5, 3, and a 1-year-old. You know, I just wanted to get home as soon as I could.
So we had a pretty rough time with it because it affected us directly. Across the street from my house is the liquor store where my father worked in, and it started being attacked and it got looted. My father was basically the curator of that liquor store, him and my uncle. He had the task of emptying out all the cash registers and opening the safe and taking the money out from the safe. So he had a lot of cash on him too. It was heavily gated, so we can see that people were struggling trying to get in. But this mob started just growing and growing and growing. We saw friends and neighbors and people that grew up with us and people that say hello to my dad at the store. They were all there looting. And I remember my parents talking about this, and in retrospect, I probably agree with a lot of things that they had said, because what's happening here in front of us is not about Ronnie King. It wasn't about the LAPD. It wasn't about Reginald Denny. It wasn't about any of those things. I think it must have been like 3 a.m. when my dad finally said, you know what, I don't feel good. People know who we are. They know we work there. They're gonna come get us. So he decided to take us to my aunt's house, who lived in Cudahy, and we spent the night there.
I had access to the roof, actually, to the rooftop of the South Bay Galleria. And I think that's the image that I'll never forget. This is going on the roof and just seeing the whole city just going up in flames. Like we're in the desert, because you could see as far inland as possible, and all you see is smokestacks everywhere. And it was pretty scary because I lived in Lynwood, and I was pretty far. The adults who were around me at the time, they were like, "Oh, you're not gonna take the bus." 2 of them got together and said, "Let's take her home." Mind you, they were not Latinos, they were not people of color. You know, residents of Palos Verdes and San Pedro and who probably never drove over here. These people who believe that my life would be so much at risk, risked their own lives and their mind possibly, and brought me home. And then you get here and every store on the corner is going up in flames. So the things that we were seeing from way out there in the Redondo Beach areas, now they're seeing it up close. It sort of reminds you of those movies where the kids want you to be dropped off in different neighborhoods so people don't see where you live. It's sort of like a scene like that.
Los disturbios empezaron aquí por la Atlantic y la Rosecrans. Ahí estaba una licorería, se me hace que era un 7-Eleven y estaba otro lugar. Esos los saquearon completamente, entonces la gente empezó a caminar hacia el norte, en la Atlantic y la Beechwood. Está todavía una tienda general. Me imagino que con un vehículo lo estrellaron y se metieron por el lado de la Beechwood y ahí le sacaron muchísima mercancía también. Caminaron un poco más hacia con nosotros, pero ya con nosotros no llegaron. En la tarde, cuando ya cerrábamos la tienda, como vendo cemento y viene en paletas, entonces lo que hacíamos, estacábamos las paletas encima de la otra en la entrada del negocio, porque son 90 libras cada saco de cemento, no fácilmente los van a sacar. Y de esa forma nos protegimos nosotros y tuvimos mucha suerte.
The best thing that came out of the whole riot thing was the gang truce. 1992, that summer after the riot, had to be like the most comfortable, easiest time to live for us. That was my thing, like, dang, I'm gonna get out of prison and all these gang murders going on. I got to jump right back into the bucket of crabs. But to have a gang truce, and to get out, man, and to be able to go on Crenshaw, and you got Bloods, Crips, Hispanic gang members, everything, and we shaking hands and we hugging each other, and it wasn't no beefing, nobody disrespecting each other. We all would come and meet up right here at Lynwood Park, and we had fun. We partied, we had fun, and it's sad that it takes tragedy. It took something like the riots to make us open our eyes, but it worked, and I really hope and pray that one day we can do it without it being a riot. One day we can all just put it down. What's the use of gang, being in gangs anymore? Put it down. We got a bigger fight now.
I think my parents felt victimized by the community. And not the community, but just those that participated, because there are a lot of people that were spectators. There are a lot of people that thought it was sad too, because that's where they would go buy their diapers for their kids or bread for sandwiches.
You don't have to be African American. You could be Mexican. But you're a little more fair than I am, and there's still discrimination. It's unfortunate, but and it's in every race. It's not just one race. So I think that if we could change that.
Okay, because I grew up here as well, born and raised in the city of Lynwood. I had several bad run-ins, okay, with former Lynwood Police Department. Okay, now mind you, I was brought up right. I'm one of the good boys, brought up right. My father's a 20-year Navy vet, and I would experience it here myself. So I can understand how people can release their frustrations as a tipping point, so to speak.
Me siento por la gente que perdió sus negocios y ya no pudo seguir adelante. Muchos de los negocios pequeños apenas la van pasando día tras día. Recuerdo que decían que no tenían aseguranza. Entonces no podían decir, voy a ir a la aseguranza a que me cubra las pérdidas. No son como las tiendas, las cadenas grandes que pueden absorber un golpe económico fuerte y pueden seguir porque les va bien o porque económicamente están muy estables. Los negocios pequeños, especialmente en nuestra comunidad, apenas van sobresaliendo. Y les llegan a hacer eso, en realidad les quitan todo su patrimonio y ya no tienen con qué volver a empezar.
Americans are Americans, but we have different cultures, and we don't teach that at any level, but only the time when you're in college. But why can't we teach it at junior high or high school, and so people understand different cultures. Even if we taught our police that in the academy, would be a better society.
And I used to tell my students all the time, you know, you don't have to fight to get a point across. You pick up a pen. But how many did I get to see? What, 180 a year? That's not enough to put a dent into what's really going on. But I believe that's the message that our kids need to hear. You need to put it to paper.
You're en route. 651 boy 1022, 650 is clear to handle.
Definitely, and I think it's happening all the time.
I certainly hope not.
I hope not.
Yes.
Of course.
I think it could.
I think we probably will experience that again.
I don't think so.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I think it could happen again.
When they told me that after the 65 that riots would never happen again, and then 91 happened.
I think people who act out that way don't walk around with the instinct to act out that way. We need more Cesar Chavez's, we need more Martin Luther King Jr.'s, you know. It'd be great if more leaders came forward because a lot of people are followers.
They've kind of moved to another level, even though they're more vocal now and hostile. I mean, they don't mind letting you know what they feel and how they feel, you know, but
Would we listen to the National Guard? Would we listen to that curfew again? And I think we saw that over there where that curfew didn't work. I mean, people just posted things and, you know, they knew where to meet, they knew how to organize. And so I really, it's a scary thought to think that if that were to happen again, I don't know how it would be resolved.
It's not so much with the black and white thing anymore. You know, it seems like the attention is on, you know, the new presidency and all of this type of stuff going on.
I am the president of the Community Police Advisory Board at the Newton Police Station for the LAPD, and Captain Rodriguez, one of the most respected people in the force. He says it's not if it happens, it's when it happens.
But I think more the long lines, it'll be more of a combined effort. It wouldn't be just a minority-based effort with the current ongoings that we're facing in the country and the political uproar. What do you mean by that? In reference to people not being satisfied with recent election results and the way the country is moving forward.
Yeah, well,